this is real last-minute shuttle diplomacy. Antony Blinken has actually extended his visit to the Middle East. Tomorrow, on Monday, he goes back to Israel. So far, he's visited 6 countries. And his talks to the press here was in Cairo after meeting Egyptian President Al-Sisi. Now, the basic takeaways of what he has said is, if I could break it down, 1, U.S. stands firmly with Israel. 2, to prevent the conflict from escalating and spreading. This is very important. 3, to address the hostage crisis. And 4, the humanitarian crisis. And I think it's with a view to the escalating or the spreading of this conflict that Antony Blinken is now going right back to Israel, because Antony Blinken is not the only top diplomat doing a shuttle diplomacy tour in the region. The Iranian foreign minister is also doing a shuttle diplomacy tour in the region, and the Iranian foreign minister has visited Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, which is there's the tensions are growing at the Lebanese border. Now, primarily, what the U.S. has said very categorically is that the U.S., and this is important to know, the U.S. is not calling for a ceasefire. The National Security Advisor, White House's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, has said categorically that the U.S. is not asking or is not, giving any directions to Israel's military operations. It is trying to make sure that Iran doesn't get into the conflict in a direct or an indirect way, which is what all this shuttle diplomacy is about. And of course, being in Egypt means the humanitarian situation is extremely critical, because Egypt has a border crossing, the Rafah crossing, which is closed. So Antony Blinken, the U.S. has appointed a new coordinator to coordinate this humanitarian mission, which is building up at the border, but has not been able to get into the besieged enclave. Meanwhile, there are U.S. nationals as well as other Western nationals who are trying to get out so that they can have an evacuation. So, Jeannie, an incredible amount of shuttle diplomacy going on as the clock ticks towards this huge invasion, which the globe is watching.
Absolutely. And also the French foreign minister in Israel as well today. We heard Antony Blinken there talking about how U.S. does support Israel, its right to defend itself, talking a lot about the way Israel does it matters, because it's true, we could be looking at a major humanitarian crisis.
Yes. And, what is also critical is how the international community is viewing this, right? I mean, we have a war in the Ukraine, and when the Ukraine war broke out, the West was extremely surprised by how the global South, the countries that call themselves the global South, didn't get on board with Russia against Russian aggression and stayed neutral. Now, the global South has constantly been saying that the West has double standards. I mean, this was at a time when we thought the Israeli-Palestinian conflict had gone on the back burner, that the status quo would stay. This gruesome Hamas attack has actually put this on the front burner, so to speak, and it is really underlining the deep divisions between how the West has come up in support of Israel's right to respond, while as countries like Russia and China are talking about ceasefire and de-escalation. So, we are not in terms of the international community, we are not in the same place as we were before the Ukraine war. A lot of these middle countries are emerging as powers, Brazil, India, South Africa, etc. So, I mean, the U.S. was long seen as the honest broker in this long-standing conflict. It is losing its credibility as an honest broker. But what Blinken does have, and the U.S. does have, is a very close ties with Israel. And hence, these visits by Blinken to all the regional Arab nations can somehow get the message into Israel about humanitarian situation, possibly about intelligence, because this is going to be extremely critical for Hamas, if they actually move into Gaza, but not really, any messaging on a ceasefire from the U.S.